The fifth diversity capability described in the integrated diversity model is measuring diversity performance. We have the adage, what you measure is what you get. And I have seen it in terms of diversity journeys. If leaders are not translating their case for diversity and the strategic goals for diversity into milestones and measurements, you're not going to be able to adjudicate whether you are actually journeying in the correct direction and that you are making, in fact, achievements along the way. So what do you need to measure in effect? Well, I'm going to start with the virtuous circle. In the earlier chapters of the book, I described that there are 5 elements required for diversity performance. We talked about diversity dimensions, inclusion, equity, leadership, purpose. It will not surprise you that when you are measuring diversity performance, you need to be measuring each of these elements. Specifically, do we have the right diversity dimensions in place, whether inherited or acquired diversity dimensions? 2, do we have an inclusive environment that can be measured, for example, by an inclusive index? Number 3, do we advance equity, or are there gaps that are perceived? Do we need to do more? Number 4, do we have inclusive leaders? Is the capability for inclusive leadership rigorous and applied? And last but not least, is the purpose understood? And does it act as a cry for people to be all supporting the diversity journey? But what we also have to measure is the closing of the diversity gap. That is a key measurement area. And we have mentioned that closing the gap comes to delivering the capabilities. So a second area of measures for diversity is, have we closed the mitigate bias gap and the build the diversity gap and the embed behavior gap and the policy gap and the measurement gap and the celebration gap? So all of those are looking at the advancement of capabilities to support diversity performance. The important thing is that diversity is something that in many ways is soft. It's about culture. It's about a feeling of belonging. But it is also what I say is hard. It is about having metrics in place that can guide leaders on whether they are achieving the diversity performance journey.